quote, Europe is committing suicide, or at least its leaders have decided to commit suicide. Whether the European people choose to go along with this is naturally another matter, close quote.
The migration crisis of 2015, which I just see as a sped-up version of something that had been happening for decades. But since 2015, the European leaders, among other things, did a deal with President Caliph Erdogan, and
he now has a gun to Europe's head.
Oh, he now has a gun to Europe's head.
Oh, he now has a gun to Europe's head. That he knows he can fire at any point.
Just explain that 60% of them simply have to stop you from time to time to make sure that
for an American audience, we're
very explicit. Erdogan is president of Turkey, and the nature of the deal was
we Europeans pay him huge sums of money. 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 Huge sums of money.
Huge sums of money. Huge sums of money. Huge sums of money. Huge sums of money. Huge sums of money.
Huge money. And he stops boats leaving the Turkish shores for Greek islands.
right.
And it is just as crude and straightforward as that.
He's not doing it out of the kindness of his heart. And things like that have undoubtedly meant that the flow of 2015 has slowed. I mean, the boats are still setting off from the North African coastline, but nothing like the rate of 2015. So there have been some things like that that have surprised me.
All right. Let's lay out the basic argument. So you're not concerned with any kind of temporary European malaise or questions of slow economic growth, which is a lot of what we hear on the other side of the big water. Again, I'm quoting you. Europe today has little desire to reproduce itself, fight for itself, or even take its own side in an argument. By the end of the lifespans of most people currently alive in Europe, Europe will not be Europe, and the peoples of Europe will have lost the only place in the world we had to call home, close quote. 2 years later, you stand, but that's a very dramatic statement. 2 years later, you stand by that.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, in the lifespans of, as I say, most people, it'll be a different place. It already is. And I lay some of that out in remorseless detail in The Strange Death of Europe. Sometimes when things happen relatively slowly, people get used to things, they adapt. I give the example of the census in the UK, the last census in the UK, which showed that in 23 out of 33 London boroughs, people who identify as white British are in the minority in those boroughs. So that in the lifespan of, I mean, you can either, like that, dislike it, or feel benign about it. But that's a massive change in just one person's lifespan already.
John Cleese tweeted, as we take this, I think it was last week, John Cleese of Monty Python fame tweeted, London no longer seems to be an English city. I think that's a close paraphrase, if not a quotation. And he was attacked, well, the attack, as attacks are on Twitter, but he was correct.
He was correct, and by the way,
factually correct.
What he said is effectively what he's boasted about by politicians, including the Mayor of London and the previous Mayor of London. They say, it's an international city. They're very happy about that. Right. But if somebody says, well, that means it's not an English city anymore, then they attack somebody like whether John Cleese or whoever for heresy. And it's very interesting, by the way, isn't it? John Cleese was attacked for the heresy of Life of Brian, 40 years ago. He's attacked by the clerics now, just the clerics of the far left and the social justice movements and so on. Not to wear frocks, 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 frock, 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 frock,
Huge sums of money.